Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Friday the 16th. We're getting warmed up. Hey Tux, how are you this morning? We're getting warmed up here. Hold on a second. Just 1 second to get started.
Then what happens when I speak?
Good morning, everybody. Giggity, Madara, user 0288, maybe Anafi,
So I speak, and I become.
Gabriel.
The word in me, I rise, I speak. The word in me, no longer weak.
Give me 1
Born
sec.
of truth, filled with grace. Every giant knows my face. In the beginning was the plan. Now I'm walking hand in hand with the word that
All right, let's get this show on the road.
lives in me.
All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rick Gomez, and I live in El Paso, Texas. Coming to you from El Paso, Texas. This morning is a Friday morning. I am here completing my 5 days in a row of lives in the morning, getting up at 4:30 in the morning my time, so it'll be 6:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 in Central, and 4:30 here in Mountain. And what you're hearing as music in the background is my original Suno music that I had, in cooperation with my ChatGPT, have taken words, phrases, things that are important to me, and put them into Suno.com to create some music that, one, not only makes me feel good, but hopefully will make you feel good. Part of the process of what we do in our everyday life is you have to do something that makes you feel good. Because if you don't do anything that makes you feel good, then you're not going to do it. And so I am going to start off the mornings with, I'm going to start off every morning with a little bit of my music, because this music means something to me. Every song that we have created started with a line, a phrase, or something that I found in one of these old books that I've been reading. And I got a lot of books, so they come from everywhere. And I wanted to just put those out there because we talked the other day about the person you become doing these lives. So one of the things that I use as a tool is my ChatGPT to be my my partner in crime. So yesterday we had tried to do, today's Friday, Thursday, Wednesday we had tried to do a multi-guest live, and my friend Jeff and I were trying to get on there and do it. So one of the ahas that I found was that you can't do it on a desktop, but you can do it from a phone and get somebody to join. And so I like being on a desktop in the morning, so I guess I'm not going to be going multi-guest in the morning. At least I haven't seen how I can do that with somebody else. But anyway, so today, again, it's the end of the week. People everywhere are usually saying, thank God it's Friday. People are counting down days. I know where I work in the school districts, they're counting down the Fridays. We're down to, I think, 11 total school days left. And actually 10 school days left. This will be we have 2 more Fridays left in the school year. And but what I'm looking for somebody who is watching this on a phone, who is burned out on your 9-to-5 job. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're curious about online income. You're skeptical, but you're hopeful. And you're searching quietly for options that you can trust. I was the same way 30 years ago when I first saw a Tony Robbins Unlimited Power infomercial on late night TV. A lot of you may be in that same boat that you saw that. You know, I'm 65 now, but that that time that I was watching TV and being I don't call it indoctrinated, learning new things from Tony Robbins, stuff that I'd never heard before. And a lot of times we are like that we don't know what we don't know until we hear it. And then all of a sudden when you hear it, that those words, they resonate with you and you stay with them, and they stay with you forever because they said that touched my heart, that touched me. I want to do something like that. And so I'm looking to talk to people that are looking for solutions, answers, roadmaps, guides. I offer a freedom blueprint here that at that site, my site down there, because it's something like that started me on the path of personal development and online income opportunities. And one of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about today was, you know, the system is broken. You know, if I had to go back and look and talk to my daughter, my nieces, my friends, to talk to their kids, is that the system is broken about how traditional income paths aren't working anymore. And you know, and you see it now because there's just so many things that are going on that are changing the world. The traditional jobs that we used to have in the past aren't there anymore. And because of inflation, the incomes aren't the same anymore. You know, earlier I talked about how my dad and mom were able to make it on 2 incomes and no inflation, and we had a house, cars, plenty of food on the table. And so there is time for that to be redone again, or at least in our perspective, we can learn new skills that will help us overcome these issues now during these times. One of my approaches to this is I want to be, you know, like I said, I'm 65. I've been 55, 45, 35, and 25. And if I can help anybody in those age ranges know what I know now and what I would do different, then you know you want to be listening to this. Again, the system is broken. Here's what I'm doing. You have to always have multiple income streams. And one of the things that I've found was that the easiest to do is online, because technology offers you a lot of leverage. That means you can be in a lot of places at the same time, and you can touch a lot of people at the same time. Whereas if you're waiting somebody to come into your store, if you open up a store, or if you're an Uber driver and you're waiting for the next ride, you're sitting there just waiting for the next ding, the next option. And I talk about that from experience because, you know, when I came to El Paso, I came here after 40 years in Houston, and I didn't know the streets. And so my brother jokingly said, well, why don't you do Uber and you can get paid to learn the streets? And I said, you know what? You got a good idea there, brother. And so I started Ubering. And you know, that was one of the coolest things I ever did. I did it for almost 2 years. And made money. But more importantly, I learned the streets. I got to talk to people. I got to learn about El Paso. I got to learn from people that actually lived in El Paso. And it was like I didn't have anybody. I had one cousin that lived here, but other than that, I didn't know a single soul. And so I had to go into an environment where I didn't know anyone. So I had to start from scratch. And so I share that story with you because sometimes you're going to go into the unknown, which is, if you're going to grow, you're going to go into the unknown. And it's always going to be that way. And so we're talking about traditional incomes. The system's broken. I'm doing as a senior now. So my old career was project management. My old career was information systems. My old career was working in a corporate environment, helping them improve their systems so that they could operate more efficiently. And so that was, I didn't know that that's what I was going to do with my life. When I was growing up, my parents are seventh grade educated. My dad was a delivery truck driver for Sears. My mom was a seamstress for Williamson Dickies down in South Texas. And we didn't know what we didn't know, but we had a good life. I enjoyed my time in South Texas. Which we all pretty much enjoy our lives. But then when you come to the real world, so what do you do next? What's next? And so I started learning, and I told the story yesterday that I started going into the unknowns because that's where the magic happens, in the unknown. And so one of the first unknowns that I had was, I talked about a high school friend of mine that was in college now or then, and he was having problems with this one class called, I don't know, it was a data processing, it was in computer programming. And when I read it, I said, I understand these words. I know what these words mean, and I know what they're trying to do. And it just hit me like, I need to go into this field. So I went looking without knowing what I was going to find. And that's what most people do, is they go looking because they don't know what they're going to find. And that's good. I loved it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. You need to take action on what feels right to you, as long as it's legal and ethical, And so the screen that you're seeing below me is my ChatGPT that has some of the topics and ideas that when I first started doing when I started doing online stuff, you're always trying to figure out, what do I say? How do I say it? And how do I do it without I have to, be reading books and papers and stuff? Now I teach people, get two screens so you can have one over here and one over there. And I can read over here what I want to share with you. And again, so I'm looking for people that want to do something different. You're burned out from your 9 to 5. You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're curious about online income. You're skeptical but hopeful. And you're searching quietly for options that they can trust. Options. Let's talk about that word for a minute. One of the things that I appreciate and that I am so grateful for is that I always had options. It would be different if I didn't have any options. But when a person has options, there's a lot of different ways you can decide and choose to take a path. And so one of the things that I liked about my life was that I had done the labor part, where it was physical labor. And I appreciated that because, again, it shows me what the people that have to labor do. And when I was growing up, my mom would tell me that, she always said, look out for the little guy. Because I remember one time she broke up a fight when we were going to the swimming pool down by where we lived. And she would say, look out for the little guy. And I go, okay, good. And so in my case, it wasn't about looking out for the little guy physically, which I still do. But at the same time, it's about looking out for the little guy that may not be getting the education, the training, the ideas, the coaching, just the support that they need. And so that's why I substitute teach, because I'm able to go into a school environment and talk to kids, talk to teachers, and help them see that there's a lot of different opportunities, options in technology, in what's going on in the world. And I especially, when I substitute, I work with the high school kids and stuff. But the ones I enjoy working the best with are the kids with autism, because they see the world in a different way than when we do it, the way we do it. And it's it's encouraging for me to work with them, to help them. They're trying to communicate with us, and we're trying to communicate with them, and we just never know when we make that connection. And you never think that that you'll be part of that group to help teach and protect and to serve. And so one of the things that that I also learned along the way is what they don't teach you about money is that you don't have to trade time for dollars. But that's the way we were first brought up. So my dad had to trade his time to get paid delivering furniture, appliances, refrigerators, washers, and dryers. It was a cool job because everywhere we went, they loved, hey, Mr. Gomez, hey, Mr. Gomez. They were glad to see him because he had delivered something that made them happy. But little did they know that my dad had to be in 100-degree heat in the cargo box that held all those appliances and all that furniture. And so it was, it was laborious. And I remember, I can smell it to this day, the smell of my dad's sweat. Now, it's it's just something that never goes away from you because it's in your memory banks. But I know that there's other ways to do it, to work, that you may not know about, that I want to share with you. And I want to introduce leverage, automation, and digital systems as the new path. Because yes, anybody that has the physical abilities can go apply for a position and get a job and offer your services to them, but they're only going to pay you that hourly wage. Now, what I'm doing here, I'm doing leverage, automation, and digital systems. So below on that domain, that website, that's part of my system. For you to get information from me, you go to that website, put in your email, and I'll send you this 90-day freedom blueprint. And that is the first thing that I teach about, is that to leverage, being on here and doing this live, there's 10 people watching right now. That's leverage. I don't have to go out to 10 different places to meet 10 different times. A person can be right here. Second leverage, this live is being recorded. So when it's all said and done and finished, I will take this live, it's going to be 90 minutes, and I will send it up to my YouTube account, create a YouTube video that's going to be out there, and then I'm going to take that YouTube clip, the YouTube link, and put it into another piece of software called Opus Clips that'll cut up my my long 90-minute video. And the video has all, well, when I get it from back from Opus Clips, it's going to have all the subcontext. It's going to have all the words, all the colors, and it's going to. I think yesterday's 90-minute version created like 45 pieces of content. It went in here and it cut it all up, and so that's why I like to read from a list, because it'll know where like one thing starts and one thing starts and stops, and it'll cut it up for me. And so it'll put titles on it, it'll transcribe it. It's it's just, that's leverage. You want to leverage the automation. You want to leverage machines. You want to leverage words. This music that I'm playing is music that I put into an AI music generator based on my words, based on the phrases in a book, things that mean something to me, that if I was going to tell you about it, it would be in this song. And then, so number two, what they don't teach you about making money. There's when you drive for Uber, once that ride's over, it's over. You're never seeing that customer again unless you're lucky in the lottery, because you have to be in the same place at the same time, and when that customer wants a ride, that's the only way you'll ever get that customer back. Whereas if you start building a system that collects emails that I collect there at mydailypaygoldmine.com, we'll be connected until you and I create a relationship where you find something of value that you want to buy. because I'm offering an option for you to learn new skills, learn new ways to do things. And so I'm going to introduce the idea of asset building. When you build an asset, which is an audience, an email list, content like this, that's the game changer. Because you don't have to keep it in your apartment, your house, in your garage. It's all stored out here, so you don't have to carry it around. And so that's another thing I want to talk about. That you just have to leverage systems. Okay. Number 3, I started with nothing, and here's how I made my first $10,000 online. And it was with this system. Because I remember I tried the network marketing thing, and I've tried like about 10 different network marketing companies, but I could never break through because I couldn't break through in here. And I couldn't see myself as, I can see myself as a network marketer and helping people learn about network marketing, but I couldn't get myself to do it on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, as something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Now that this is here now, and trust me, it was hard for me to tell my brother and my family that I'm going to be on TikTok, because this is like having my own little private TV station. 391 people have already seen or come by or stopped by. 6 are on right now. And I appreciate everybody that's come by and joined and stayed with us for a little bit. Because you're going to be able to still see this when I cut up the video. You'll still see parts of it after I'm done. And so, I want to talk a lot about reaching out to give people an idea, a lifeline, a method of doing things in a new way. And, to do that, I had to make sacrifices. We had to choose different things. I could have stayed in bed for another hour and a half and waited and gone to work and then come back. But I want to do this so that I can get my 90 minutes done. I get all this stuff out of my system. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to talk about, to be honest with you. But because I have my ChatGPT, another good investment at $20 a month, I'm able to have basically like a producer. If I ask a question, it'll come back and say, these are things you can talk about today. A lot of my stuff is from experience. I have a high level steps and series of things that I want to talk about, but a lot of it is about my experience, because that's the only thing that's different between you and me is my experience and my eagerness to learn. And so so that was number 2. So first one was system is broken, and here's what I'm doing instead. Here's what they don't teach you about making money. And again, hard truths about making money is I learned from a book. I love books. There's 4 different ways to make money. One is you're an employee, which is fine. We all start there. The next one is self-employed. That means that you said, I want to do my own thing, but you are the own thing. You're the one that does everything from, like they say, opening the doors at the store, cleaning it, taking out the trash, meeting the customers, restocking, everything. You're the guy. The third level, or the next part, is to be a business owner, not a self-employed person, but a business owner, where you leverage systems that do the work for you. And then the last way to make money is investing, where you invest in other businesses, you invest in the stock market, you invest in other ways that money works for you. So those 4 ways help you earn income. And so the first way I made my first 10 grand online was last year about this time. No, it was at the beginning of the year, in January of last year. My neighbor's family, which I call my rent-a family, they needed help because the mom was going to go work about 3 hours away, and they needed somebody to help them with the grandkids. Or I call them my rent-a-grandkids now, but the kids. And so I said, I had time, and I wanted to do online stuff, so I said, I'll go. And when I was down there, I had to do and learn this online marketing stuff because I had no choice. I had to go help. I wanted to go help, and I had to go help. And I wanted to make money that wasn't just a low hourly wage. And that's when I first learned the concept of the high ticket item. Because if I'm going to put all this effort in, I don't want to make $20. I don't want to make $9. I want to make $900. And you should want too. That's the very first mindset thing that I had in my head. Oh, I'll sell my services for $20 an hour. I can make some money, but that's all fine. But at the end of the day, would you rather have $20 or $900? $20, $900. Easy deal. And I didn't have to come up with the course. I didn't have to come up with the idea. Even though I supplement the idea now, because the course that's in that Freedom Blueprint, it comes with me. It comes with all the material that was created by our mentor, but it also comes with me as an added value, added bonus, if that's what you want to call it. And so that I needed to figure out a way to make about $10,000, so that my part-time substitute job here in substitute teaching, I wasn't going to be able to do. And so I started talking to people and being online, and next thing I know, I made over 10 sales at 900, and that got me to 10,000. And I had other little things going on too that made me some extra money. But the whole point is that if you know how to leverage, you'll learn how to build something that makes money while you're not there. And that's the most important part, right? So, and again, it's not too late to learn, because even though I want to say that's the offer that I bring to you. If you're just starting, I can show you the tech to learn and the tech that you don't have to worry about, because there's just certain things that you don't need to worry about. And I want to answer those questions that come up in your head all the time. Well, how do I do this? When do I do this? How do I do this? Because the first thing that we work on is in your mindset. You're already worthy, right? You have raised families. You've worked for companies. You've been parents. You pay taxes. You're responsible. So that means you're worthy of this kind of opportunity, but you've never been exposed to it. And exposure is the key thing. When you're raising kids, I know that when I first became a dad, I learned that, you have to expose your child to as many things as possible so that you can figure out what they want to do when they grow up. And so the exposure, when that thinking came into my head, I didn't know that I was going to be taking my daughter to New York City. I didn't know I was going to be taking my daughter to Norway. I didn't know I was going to take my daughter to Paris. All these things that were in my head, and I didn't even know I was going to travel. But it all happened that way, just because I started thinking about new ways to do my life, do my work, and get my degrees. And there's just certain things that have to happen. But it all depended on me. I had to change. I had to go prove my value in companies. I had to go add value to other to projects. And so the first thing we talk about is getting skills. And the only way I was able to do that is because I had skills. I have skills, and we all have skills. The very first one is storytelling. Do you have a story that you can tell that relates to other people? Have you ever been a grandparent that wants to earn some extra money because you want to spend time with your grandkids, or because your daughter or your son needs help with them? Right now, the kids, I feel good because they're already of the age where they can take care of themselves now. But I had a part in having them grow, and I had a part in helping them learn, grow, be responsible. Be good kids. They're doing great in school now. They're great kids. And so you can start with that. You got to start with what you got, period. But you got to understand that that's worth value to somebody. So if you have a story, plus you learn some skills, plus you take little risks. So risks, I'm not telling you to go crazy about risks. I always tell others that buy from me, my customers, I go, I take this serious. So if you pay $900 to me for this course, you get me, and I'm going to do everything I can in my power to help you start and finish this. You're learning. Many people start the business, but they quit because in reality they want a paycheck. I didn't want a paycheck. I wanted a system. I wanted something that when I left, and I put this out there, I can go to my part-time job, substitute teaching, and I can cut up my live here into a bunch of little mini clips and have those working for me while I'm at school. And so that's leverage. And then I just wait. I wait for the person that goes and wants to know what the 90-day Freedom Blueprint's about. They want to know, they want to learn new skills. They want to work with somebody who's been there, who's got all these gray hairs, that wants help with a new career path. So that's what I'm here about. I'm trying to help people do that. So I don't sell products, I build systems. So the old school hustle and the new school automation is, in the old days, if you need to make money, you say, I got to go get a second job or a third job. And those days were good, but you don't have to do that anymore because of the opportunities, and especially about the opportunities with TikTok. TikTok helps you reach more people, your audiences, and people that are like you that you can help and serve. If you were to go on a trip, would you ask somebody who's never been on that trip and that road before for advice? Or would you want to know where the roadblocks are, where the rest stops are, what are the milestones along the way? And that's what you're going to get with me. You will learn the system. I will help coach you through some of your mental blocks. Because trust me, everything that I've learned has all been on me. I'm the only person that's always with me. My brain's always with me. My thoughts are always with me. And it's always me that has either done something or not done something. And so, again, once the system is built, all you have to do now is market that I have this system that shows you how to do all these things. Come and join me. Let me be your guide. Let me hold your hand over the freedom bridge, because I have freedom now, because I can work from here. I'm in El Paso, Texas, or I could work from, Alaska if I wanted to. I don't want to work in Alaska. But, it's a skill that anybody can learn. But you also have to get over yourself in the sense that everyone here has and can help others. That's the number one thing that we all have. We can all help each other. And I'm pretty sure that you know that in your life, you've helped people, but you just didn't get paid for it. Now, here's a way for you to help people learn a new skill, get together in a community, because you're not alone. I'm not the only one that's doing this, and you can see that all day long on TikTok. I'm not the only one doing it, but that's okay, because I'm only talking to people that may be living in Texas, that are my age, 65, that have come from a background of technology or corporate America that got burned out and want to come and do something different. But because when you're in corporate America, they talk to you about the same thing all the time, that your mind gets numb to any other opportunities. I remember going to an anniversary lunch. I want to say it was my 10th year anniversary. And we went to a place in Houston called the Taste of Texas Steakhouse. And this business was made by a restaurateur guy, but it's the only restaurant of its kind, and he only had one restaurant. And so, coming from downtown Houston, there's high rises and corporate, and that's all we knew. That's the world. That's our business. And we came to this little restaurant that's built out of a house in the Memorial area of Houston, they always give you, they always ask you, is this your first time here at Taste of Texas? Yeah, so tell us about it. And so they talk about the guy that started it and what he wanted to do. And so me, and being my inquisitive me, I said, so this is the only thing he does? Yep, he only has this store. And this is the only restaurant he has. And this is what they do. And that place was jam-packed. And it was jam-packed every day. And so I liked, well, first off, I became awake to the idea that my life in downtown buildings wasn't the only way. And I had earlier on started, thinking about different things, what to do. When I was in Houston, one of the first part-time little things that I did on my own was I was working. The first job that I had in my company was, it was funny. Came to Houston from South Texas, got hired on to come to Houston, went to my orientation on that Monday. They gave us the orientation. Now they said, go home. I go home. It was only like about 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, you're on the graveyard shift. Come back at 10 tonight. I go, graveyards? What does that mean? I don't want to work graveyards. Who wants to work in the middle of the night? That's what I'm sleeping. That's when I'm watching TV. And sure enough, I was on my first exposure to the 3 shifts. There's days, swings, and graveyards. And so everybody was fighting for the different shifts. That made sense to them for their lives, right? And so one of the things that a lot of people did, if you had time to do different things, people would have other little side gigs before they went to work. Again, we weren't doing manual labor work. It was all more thought work, knowledge workers, And so I remember, I'm going to blame my brother a lot for all these things that I've done, is he talked about that his friend down in South Texas was a real estate guy, and he paid people to clean lots and do that kind of stuff. And I said, if I can make some money doing that before I go to work, then I'll have a little extra change in my pocket. And I came across a lady who was, back in the 80s, there was a lot of foreclosures in Houston. And so there was a lot of homes that had grass that was growing, but nobody was in those houses. And so this lady, Pat, can't remember her last name, Pat Altman, she saw me cutting grass one day, and she said, hey, do you want a little part-time job? I go, sure, I'll take them. And she told me about the foreclosures, and she told me about the yards had to look nice. And that was the first time I'd ever heard of the term curb appeal. And I said, okay, my job is to help make these homes have curb appeal. And so I would, back then I was driving a little Chevy S10 red and silver pickup truck. And so I said, well, I can buy a lawnmower, I can buy a weed eater, I can have rakes. Back then they didn't have, was I using a blower? I wasn't using a blower. I love rakes. At my house, so I was using the equipment that I had at my house. And that's when you know that you're in the gig economy, when you start using things in your house to make money. So I was using my lawnmower that I use for my yard. I was in the weed eater, all the other little tools that I have, and then you have your garage. And then come to find out too now that people were turning their houses into income through like Airbnb. You rented out rooms, you rented out your house. If if you were going to move somewhere, you could take that asset and turn it into income. Then came along Uber. I had a car, I had time, I had a phone. The apps leveraged. Now all you had to do was wait for a ding. Man, I was telling my friend the other day the story of when I first started doing Uber. I came to El Paso. I didn't know anything about El Paso. I didn't know the streets. My brother said, drive Uber and they'll teach you the streets and you get paid for it. But then it became a habit. When a ding goes off, back then the ding would go off And it was like, now I know what somebody that's hooked on something, goes through, because I just wanted another ding, another ding, another ding, another ding, another ding. And that was the most fun days, but they were the hardest days, because you were going ride after ride after ride after ride. And I was learning the streets. But the hard part was, then I sat back and I go, I'm making a lot of rides. Am I making really money? It was always making me enough to pay gas and have a little extra cash. But I go, I can't see how anybody can make this into a living unless you just work here all day long. And so I said, I got to work smarter, not harder. That's one of the things that I learned while working in corporate America, was you have to learn how to work smarter, not harder. And so one of the things was I started taking, it wasn't the quantity of rides, it was the quality of rides. So I started looking for and being places where I thought that they were going to have quality rides. Quality rides just means it's a longer ride. You get the money for the longer drive. And so where do you have to be to do that? Well, at the airport. Because if you come to the airport in El Paso, they're either going to be local because they're coming home, and sometimes they live across the mountain, so a trip to the west side was a good trip. Or sometimes they'd be going up to New Mexico, up to Las Cruces, to the university up there. And that would be a good trip. So going up to Las Cruces. Sometimes you wouldn't even, they'd come to El Paso because they had to fly in from the north, like say New York or Philadelphia, and they were coming to El Paso to go into Juarez, that has a consulate, so that they get their papers renewed, their visas and all that kind of renewed. And so that was one of them. And then there was another guy that I took down to Sierra Blanca, which is about 100 miles from here, to a checkpoint. And I asked him at the airport, I said, so where are we going? He goes, we're going to Sierra Blanca. I go, Sierra Blanca? I go, woo, my eyes lit up. I said, woo, that's a long trip. I go, what are we going to do there? He goes, well, they stole my car in, I think he was around the Lubbock area, and they found it in the Sierra Blanca area. So we were taking him all the way back. I was taking him back to get his car, and then he was going to drive it back to Lubbock. But all those experiences helped me tell stories, because I would tell them about El Paso, because he'd never been to El Paso. I was able to tell him about El Paso. I was able to tell him about my time in Houston. I was able to tell him about just a little bit about everything. And so at the end, he got his car. He bought me lunch, and then I drove back. And my first, I always remember my first ride. My first ride was, because you're waiting for that ding. That ding happens. Now, instead of having those ride dings, I have these $900 dings. Every time that somebody purchases a system, some knowledge from me, the skills that we have, and that becomes a $900 ding, I like it. It's better than it was the $40 ding or the $60 ding or even the $100 ding. Now I'm offering more value to more people at the same time. When you were an Uber driver, you only had opportunity to make money on that trip. And like I said, once that trip was over, your relationship with that passenger was over. And so you don't want to be the person that loses your contacts. You spend time creating relationships with them. You spend time adding value to them, and now all of a sudden they're gone. So if you're not, if you're an Uber driver or you're in any situation that you regularly meet people, but then they're gone, that's not a good thing. You're wasting a resource that's leaving you. And so, like I said, I had a lot of good experiences with my Uber driving. I had a lot of thanks for the hearts. Anybody you want to tap? Give me. I'll take as many hearts as you want to give me. And so, again, being an Uber driver served a purpose. Everything that I've ever done served a purpose, and I wanted to make sure that I love telling these stories because, again, and I can probably tell these all the time. Before I came to Houston, so people ask me, how did you end up in El Paso from Houston? Excuse me. It's a funny story. So I had worked in Houston for nearly 30 years. And then toward the end of those years, they had an early retirement package kind of thing. So companies that started doing downsizing, they started changing. And I took a package and I got out of that work. But then I was trying to figure out, so now what am I going to do? And so I wanted to go find something to do. And I was looking through, where was I looking? I think it was through Texas Workforce. And up came an offer, an ad, a position for what they call the family service counselor. And I've always been a big spiritual guy, not a church guy, but a spiritual guy. And so I go, family service counselor, what does that mean? What is that? So I called in, got an appointment for an interview, and I went to a part of Houston that in my 40 years that I had been there, I had never seen. It was down in the Gulf Gate area, and there was a cemetery called Forest Park Lawndale. And if you're in the Houston area, you got to go see it. It's changed a little bit now since the hurricanes have come and a lot of the trees got knocked down. But way back in the day, back in the 1920s, when that first thing got started, that was where the people of Houston that built Houston came to be buried. That's where their family legacy was. And there you'll find a lot of the movers and shakers of the 20s in Houston. Those are the people that started all the big companies in Houston. And so when I first got there, I pulled into the parking lot and I saw this park. It was a park-like setting, trees everywhere, green. It was all green. Houston's very lush. And so I went in there and I talked about the position. It was a family service counselor. A family service counselor is a person that's the title of the person that helps a family make arrangements for somebody that passed away. You're not a funeral director, but you're the helper, right? You're the one that gets everything ready for that service at the cemetery. Funeral directors get everything ready at the funeral home for all that. But I worked there, what was going to be a short-term kind of thing ended up being close to a 10-year career with them. But in my last years, they were looking for a well, this I'll tell you how stuff can happen. A group of sales managers and counselors from El Paso came to Houston for training. And the training, they did it at Lawndale because it was so big, had a lot of variety of issues and things that could happen, that you would get, that was known as the University of Cemeteries, because it was so big. It was like close to 300 acres, thousands and thousands of burials that have happened. There's monuments out there, there's trees, there's all kinds of different things. But they said, hey, they need a sales, well, I take it back. So they came for training. I met them all. I took them on a tour of the park. And, I love telling my stories of all the people that I had, or the families that I had served, plus the historical families that are there. And so that storytelling got me an offer to come to El Paso to become a sales manager here in El Paso. And so at the time, I was divorced. I was a empty nester kind of person. My daughter had already graduated high school and was now in college, and so I said, why not? Let me go try a new adventure. And it was just funny because I came all the way to El Paso from Houston, giving up all 40 years of my life in Houston. I could tell you the streets, the restaurants, the places, and I said I have to learn all this stuff all over again. And it was easy in Houston because I had a daughter that I would take to all these events, and we would go different places, and I knew that. But here I had to figure out, what am I going to do now? So luckily, my first apartment complex here that I stayed at, and I've been in this apartment right here for 9 years, primarily because, one, I love it. It's low maintenance. I don't have to do too much of anything anymore. I've done my yard work. I've done all the stuff that I've had to do in the house, so I don't have to do that anymore. My neighbor across the hallway there, he was his part-time gig. He's a retired vet, but he did sports officiating. And I said, sports officiating, that's what I need, because you go to all the different schools. And I was able to, in that sports officiating gig, I was able to learn about the schools, the school districts, the teams, the rivalries, the mascots, everything about that city and that team. And so I used that experience to help me learn about the city I was now living in. And so I took the Uber, took the experience of the refereeing, and I said, because they asked me, do you want to come back to Houston after? This is what I used to tell it when I was driving Uber. I came to Houston on a job transfer. The job transfer was a bust, but I fell in love with El Paso. They asked me if I wanted to come back to Houston. I go, for what? Humidity and hurricanes? No way. I'm going to stay here. They don't have no humidity. They don't have any hurricanes. So I learned to tell stories about this place. When I left the airport and we hit I-10, I go, 9 hours that way is LA. 9 hours that way is Houston. And people's eyes would light up like, and you're still in Texas in 9 hours that way? I go, yep, probably even 10 or 11 hours that way. And that sort of kind of got me into the storytelling mode. And so now I knew that I can tell stories, I can help people learn new things, because storytelling is another magic thing that you'll learn, a tool to put in your toolkit. But tell me about your story. Tell me, are you a single mom? Are you a single dad? Are you a cancer survivor? Are you, again, tell me your story, because we can touch each other's lives. And if you say, hey, well, Rick, how can you help me do what you do? And all I did was want to look for something different. And people used to call me lazy, but I wasn't lazy. And I had to come to terms with that, because I didn't want to do manual work. And it's not that I didn't want to and I couldn't do it. I said, it has to be a better way to do work. So I was always asking, what is the better way? What is a way that's more efficient? When I was in Houston, the company I worked for, it was always about working smarter, not harder. It was about systems. It was about efficiencies. It was about looking into the future, forward-looking. It was about, I worked in this one role, was project manager, but at the end, the big one that I liked the most was a risk manager. That was with another company, but risk management was always about looking to see what could happen. What could happen. And it's the first thing where I learned about probabilities, because anything is possible. In your life, anything is possible. But is it probable? And that's where I first learned how to assess probabilities about certain things. And so my job in that risk management job was to look at a business and assess it. What were its risks when it came to the business processes? And so, so that was that part. But going back to my analogy of the cemetery and working in a cemetery, is that you never know when an opportunity is going to come into your lap. And you want to be ready for it by keeping your eyes open, your ears open, knowing that you want something different. So one of the things, again, the first step you have to take is a simple one, but it's the hardest one you'll ever take. You got to go to that website and you got to put your email in. I don't know how many countless times I put my email in blanks. Didn't know what I was going to get. I knew I was going to get a lot of emails, but that's okay, because those emails also served as a school. I took all those emails. I look at them. I study them. I see what worked, what didn't work, what words did I like, what didn't I like. But then I put them down over here in another folder. It didn't bother me to get all these emails, because now I had what they call in the copywriting industry a swipe file. And a swipe file just means that you're going to borrow ideas from somebody else that's already done it. So nobody starts from scratch. Nobody starts from zero unless your thinking is, I'm starting from zero. But you're not starting from zero. And so I want to thank everybody that's been joining. We've had over 859 people come by. I got 9 online right now, 118 hearts. Help me get more hearts. Tap, tap, tap your screen. I would appreciate it. Anyway, so the coffee gets cold when you start on a roll talking. This week has been about learning how to use this TikTok Live Studio. I help people also take small steps to learn things and not get frustrated because they don't get it on the first try. I've been trying to get on TikTok for months, but I couldn't get myself off of Facebook because I just kept thinking, that's it, that's where it's at, Facebook. In reality, it's everywhere. As long as there's a person, a computer, and a device, anybody can be connected anywhere. What I learned from a mentor, and I'm 65 and I still have mentors. You need to, ask for help when you need help, because there's certain things that you're not seeing. I paid, I was just looking, I paid for a course to learn about TikTok and TikTok Shop. And so one of the things that everybody says about TikTok is that you have to go live. So TikTok itself, knows who you are, what you're talking about, and how it can bring you through its algorithm the people that can help you hit your goals and that match with you. And so you have to learn how to work with TikTok. So that music that comes on right now, it's music I've created in my AI, Suno.com. And because of the bandwidth, I guess it plays a song, stops the song, plays a song, stops the song. But anyway, so yes, I've been working on TikTok now I've had the app, but I hadn't done nothing with it. Facebook was my place. I wanted to be on Facebook because that's where all the people were, and that's where I was able to create a network marketing business based on networking on Facebook. But it was time to move from Facebook. I had to divorce Facebook, sorry to say, and I'm making my way over to here. One of the things I liked about TikTok is that the people that are on TikTok, they're creators, they're performers. And on Facebook, there are just a lot of people that just read and look, and there's people that create, don't get me wrong, but there's not people that create like the people that create on TikTok. There's a lot of creative people on TikTok that you can learn from, that can help each other. And so now I am immersing myself for the next 90 days into TikTok. And if you wanted to go along on this journey with me, go sign up with me. It's free. Get your 90-day freedom blueprint, and let's work together. So let me see here. So I already talked about that one. I talked about the system is broken, what they don't teach about making money. I started with nothing, how I made my first money online. I build systems. I don't sell products. Because remember about the system, it works without me. As soon as I finish this, I publish it. And it goes to a lot of different places that I don't have to be. And, every day I'm at Substitute Teaching, and I see somebody liked your video on LinkedIn. Somebody liked your video on Instagram. Somebody liked your video on Facebook. So there's always things that are happening because of that. And I see that asset is always out there. And now with TikTok, when I put these out there, I'm able to put the title and the domain right here, and I just say, look, join me. It's free. Get the information, get the Freedom Blueprint, and just get it from there. And that's how this whole process starts. I remember I used to buy magazines, like entrepreneur magazines, and in the back of magazines, they used to have the classifieds, and the classified says SASE and $1. And SASE is self-addressed stamped envelope and $1. And so that's how they would get customers. Send $1 in it. You put the envelope, you put the stamp, and you mail it to this address, and then they'll send you something for your $1. And that's the same thing here. But now we don't have to go buy a magazine. You just do it online, and this is my magazine, and I can come out here and have my own little TV station for 90 minutes. It's already been an hour, and yes, I've had practice talking a lot. I told my stories at the cemetery. I tell my stories about my life in corporate America. I tell my stories about being a parent. I tell my stories about being laid off. I tell my stories about having a strained relationship with my daughter. I tell my stories about my experience with divorce, my ahas about divorce. I tell my stories about that, I wasn't ready sometimes for relationships, and a lot of men maybe aren't, because we just think one way, but the relationships are a whole lot different these days. And they're not even these days. It is. And so, but now, like I said, my intent with all this stuff is to, one, leave a legacy for my family, leave a legacy for my daughter, because once it's built, all this stuff is out here and it'll never go away. And if anybody can find that domain and click it or go to it, then there's a possibility that they'll be able to come in and get the information that I'm going to put out, plus the information that's already in the system, and they'll be a different person. Because this is not a one-shot deal. You don't take it off the shelf and use it one time and you're done. No, you work it every day for the rest of your life. And that's what this little book talked about. You see how beat up this old book is? This is called The Secret of Permanent Prosperity by Mike Hernacki. This is a version way back in the day. But his big deal was that there was a time period where people took pride in working and owning things and building things. And they knew what the secret was. And that's sort of kind of where I feel like we're heading back into that. We sort of kind of got away from what it used to mean to work and work with pride. And now I feel like we're coming back into that time period. But Mike Hernacki says here that the secret to permanent prosperity is this. Let me read it to you here real quick. That way you can have a this morning, it will have been worth it for you to stick around this long. So in this book that's been with me for a long time, when you get all these ideas that are in this book together, we get to the secret to permanent prosperity. To be prosperous, you must deliver value and accept value in return. To be permanently prosperous, you must continue delivering and accepting value for the rest of your life. So it's about value. You deliver it, and then you accept value in return. You're not ashamed to ask people be a customer, be my customer. I'm going to give you something that's worth way more than what you're going to pay me. It took me a long time to understand that, and it took me a long time to pay. When I have a car problem, I go for the mechanic that's going to help me and that I trust, and I'll pay whatever he says because he's going to fix my car. And I used to be, no, I want to go look for the cheapest guy. I want to look for the what do they call those? Shade tree mechanics. But those guys are the worst. I mean, they're good guys. Don't get me wrong. But, oh yeah, I'll get to your car tomorrow, the next day, the next week. And I don't know about you, but I need my car today or tomorrow at least. And so, again, I want to thank everybody for joining today. I've had over 1,000 views. I think this is my record for views. I have 19 current people on. I appreciate that. Again, we're talking about my experiences. We're talking about how to start off your weekend, with a new way of life. Hopefully that some of the stuff that I'm sharing with you, based on all these gray hairs, will help you make a change, will help give you hope about that there's options out there that you may not have considered yet. And I wanted to, so going over what I'm talking about. So we're on so I was talking about the system is broken when it comes to making money or work money. I'm introducing leverage, automation, and digital systems to you guys as the new path. What they don't teach you about making money, again, we talked about trading time for dollars, and there's a lot of people that go to work and don't see their families because you have to be at work. And so, and again, I'm not telling you anything new. You may have heard it before, but it just hasn't sunk in yet because it took me a long time to hear something that finally clicked and said, he's right. And when he said when I said he's right, I sold myself on that new path about learning, about just changing my life, and it's changed. And so, and again, it went back all the way to the Tony Robbins middle of the night information webinars, or whatever they call them, infomercials back in the day. But once I made that decision to change, my life has changed. It's never been the same. And I've traveled the world. I've been, like I said, I don't say this to brag, but I came from South Texas, son of a delivery truck driver and a seamstress at Williamson-Dickey, to project manager, systems analyst, what else did I do? Risk manager, and I traveled. And so I was able to do all that stuff. And it starts with you. It starts with you changing to say, I want to do something different. And it's not going to happen right away because all my stuff didn't happen right away. And then, like I said, even for me to get on TikTok, my little granddaughter says, "You're on TikTok?" Because they have this one image in their mind that I'd be dancing out here like, a person on fire or something. But I am. And I told her, and I, every once in a while, I'll share some stuff with her. But she sees me now as someone who can help her learn technology. My grandson said, "Rick, can you help me start a YouTube channel?" I go, "I can. I know the technology. I know how to do that stuff." Now, I'm not a big YouTuber, but all I know is that you can open a YouTube account and start loading it with you videos, your knowledge, your skills, your interests. So you can take advantage of all these tools, all these systems, and use them to your advantage. Because again, my purpose of being on TikTok for 90 minutes is to drink my coffee, go over some of these things that I've learned over my life, use my superpower, my smile, because everybody's got a superpower. It's in your story. Your story is what's going to help you get ahead. It's going to help you move ahead. But the first thing you got to do is you got to show up, you got to follow up with people, and then you got to follow through. You got to follow through on what you say you're going to do. I always go back to a lot of life lessons that I learned from old supervisors or old people that impressed me when I first started in corporate America. And one of them was a guy named Jim Dodrell. And he always says, in this business that we're in, you got to follow through. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And that stuck with me. And I was always the guy that I would follow through. And if I didn't, I'd feel guilty. I feel bad about not doing that. And so I was always working with this thing hanging over my head, this guilt conscious about do it. You got to do it. And so here, what I'm doing now is, look, I worked in a basement at a bank creating microfiche files. In case you don't know what microfiche files are, we used to take these long reports and feed them through this machine that would create microfiche so that they wouldn't have to keep all that paper. And so I learned how to print checks on a printing machine from a guy named Stanley. I don't remember his last name, but his name was Stanley, and he was down in that basement cranking out those checks for people. And so those are the things that some things I said I don't want to do, but I'm glad that I learned about it because I could always tell a story about it. And then from there, my first office job, to me was an office job, was working as a salesman at Sears and Roebuck's men department. I used, you had to dress up, you had to wear ties. I said, well, might as well work in this department store so I could get a suit and a tie and a shirt, and you get them at discounts. And so it was nice to do that. Man, I appreciate all you guys here. There's 58 viewers online. There's 1,300 have seen the live. I've been doing this for the week, trying to find a process and a system that works for me. I have, it's an hour and 12 minutes now into the thing. I only go an hour and a half, 90 minutes. The songs that you're hearing in the background are songs that I generated through Suno.com. I use my ChatGPT to put a thought, idea, and then or a quote from a book. If you get a quote from a book, go into ChatGPT and say, I want you to write me a song about this quote, this verse. And if you want to try it, it's easy. You get 50 free credits on Suno.com. Get your favorite Bible verse, put it in ChatGPT, have it write you a song, take the lyrics, the style, and the title, and put it into Suno.com, and watch what comes out. And you'll be surprised. I'm just like, I love this stuff. I wrote a song about mothers for Mother's Day. It's on my Facebook page, but I'm learning how to publish all the songs that I've created. And I believe I'm up to like 45 songs that I've created. And I'm about ready to publish those. Because I catch myself putting it on and listening to the songs that were generated for me. I don't listen to somebody else that doesn't matter to me. This matters to me. And because all these songs have a message in them. And so when you offer that as a value package, you get to know about me. You get to know about what I'm about and what I'm trying to share with you guys. Everybody's got a story. And now with this, the way TikTok Live Studio works, and again, I'm barely touching the surface of what all the little features are. But what I do want to do is, again, I take the recording, that'll be an hour and a half, and I upload it into YouTube. And again, I'm doing this from my phone while I'm sitting in a class, substitute teaching. And then from there, I put it into, once I get the link for YouTube, I put that link into Opus Clips. Opus Clips then takes that hour and a half video, and it'll break it up, chop it up, and it'll become my shorts, my reels, and then again, and let me tell you about the best thing about Opus Clips. When I was working in the funeral business or in the cemetery, I had an old supervisor that was trained. He's not even an old supervisor. I'm older than he is, but he was the old guy there in the terms of supervisor. He goes, if you have an empty calendar, you're going to have an empty paycheck. And I go, that's interesting. An empty calendar, empty paycheck. And what he meant was empty bank account. And that meant that if you weren't talking to people and you weren't seeing people and you didn't have appointments to talk to people, you were not going to have the opportunity to solve that family's problem. Because one of the things that I learned in that business is that it's funny, but in my network marketing career, they always talked about when you talk to people, you want to have something before you need it. It's better to have a side gig when you don't need it. That's always the best time to do it, because when you need it, it's not there, and you have to start from scratch, and you're feeling frantic, and you're feeling what do you want to call it? You're confused because you don't know what to do next. But if you already have something on the side, and something happens to your job, well, then you have something at least to start with. And so I learned that from my friend Eddie down in Houston. Keep your calendar full, and your bank account will be full. And so all these little life lessons, those are my life lessons. They're not going to be super waha, but they are what somebody needs to hear today. That one, you're working at your corporate job, that's fine. But you need to break out another hour a day to do something different. Like I'm doing right now, 90 minutes on this. I take a lot of notes. I have notebooks back there that I've written notes in for many years. But you want to find your voice. What is your voice? Because, and who are you talking to? You know, I'm talking to grandparents right now. I'm talking to baby boomers. You know, I'm 65 and I feel like I'm 45. I have still energy. My brain's working fine. You know, knock on wood. But what I want for me, I want for you. And if I want to make $36,000 a month, I want you to make $36,000 a month. But you can't be goofing around with $5 here, $10 here, you know, $20. You got to make some serious money to make $36,000 a month. And I'm not there yet, but I'm getting close. And so, but you have to have a system to help you with. And if you have a system, but you put it in the garage and never take it out of the garage, nobody knows that you have a system. And so it's not working for you. And a lot of times that's what we do. We put stuff into the closet. We buy it, we see it, but you have to take the time to go live it, work it. I always give the example of my cemetery story. When I got to the cemetery, I'd already worked close to 30 years in corporate America. So I knew corporate America, and they told me what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and all that. But when I got to the cemetery, it was a whole different ballgame because you had to use a little bit more art than science. And so, because you had to talk to people. And so in the first 90 days, anywhere I go, I always try to max out those first 90 days. I look for ways to learn about every single piece of the process, because there's a beginning process, and in the cemetery business, it was about when people come into the front door is one part, and another part is when they first come into the cemetery, because they're looking, they have issues, they have a problem, they know somebody that's resting in that cemetery, and you gotta know what happens from the moment they drive into the cemetery. What are they seeing? What are they experiencing? You know, are the grounds guys over there goofing off, watching soccer on TV somewhere, or are they you know cleaning the bushes and cleaning the headstones, and are they doing different things? Because all that helped me create value for my customers when they came in, because I would know the people in the grounds crew. I would know what their roles are. And I don't know why this thing keeps coming up. 5 minutes of inactivity doesn't make sense. But when they first came into the cemetery, there's the grounds crew, and then when they walked in the door of the funeral home, where we primarily worked was in the funeral home. You had to greet them, make them feel at home, make them not feel awkward about being in a funeral home. You want to be, the way I used to put it, I want them when they walk out to know that they didn't expect what they got from me, because I helped them with knowledge and information about the cemetery, about what happens when somebody passes away, what happens. because that's the biggest unknown you're ever going to face is what happens when a loved one of mine passes away. And so when you learn that skill to share comfort and to share empathy with a family, that's a big skill. And again, a prepackaged funeral or a prepaid funeral is one of those things that you want to have before you need it. Because when you need it and you don't have it, then your whole world goes upside down. And so you need to, again, I'm not selling prepaid funerals anymore, but if you ever consider one, get one. I already have my prepaid funeral, so I'm good. My daughter doesn't have to worry about it. My brother doesn't have to worry about it. And so it's one of those kind of things that you just learn. So again, my life has gone from South Texas to Houston to countries around the world. Now it's an online world. So now I don't even have to leave home and be all over the world. Now the majority of people that I'm talking to right now, they're in the United States. But I don't care where you're from. If you want to learn and I can teach you, then let me teach you. So hold on. So the songs that's playing in the background is a song that I created through a site called Suno.com for AI generated music based on your input. So Suno.com. So let me see what else is here. So about this time, after going live for all this time, I always get this message that they have detected inactivity, but I don't know how because we've been on there for almost an hour and a half. And so I have to complete a verification. But the verification takes a long time to load. And this weekend, one of the things that I'm working on is getting an extra fan, to cool down my CPU, because I think that's the CPU is going slow. So if you see me going slow, it's not me, it's the computer. But anyway, let me finish up this list of stuff. Number 5, 3 things I do if I had to start over with $0. I teach step by step. I highlight affiliate marketing. We're going to be talking about TikTok Shop. We're going to be talking about a system with pre-made products. And if you want, again, just go to that domain, put in your email, and you'll get the Freedom Blueprint. And number 6, how do you know if you're meant for more than a job? This one you'll feel it because you'll be talking to yourself, this guy, he's been where I've been, and he took the chance to go do something different. And if that resonates with you, then that's where we're going to connect. If it doesn't resonate with you, then we don't connect because it's not your time yet. I learned that the timing has to be right in your life to make a change. If the timing is not right, we're not going to connect. But if the timing is right in your life and you were looking for something, today's the day. Today's your day to have seen me talking about making online income. And so, again, you're a builder, you're a creator, you're a freedom thinker. So let's get you started. So go to my domain, go put your email in, get your free report. Let's get a conversation started. Let's meet up again. If I go live on the weekends, it's not going to be at a set time, but Monday through Friday, I'm going live at 4:30 in the morning here in the Mountain Time. My friends here in Texas call it the unknown time zone, and it'll be 6:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 Central, 4:30 here in Mountain, and I would really like to connect with you. I appreciate everybody that came out, gave hearts, the viewers that have stopped by. I think I've had over 50 or 60 viewers at one time, so that's going to be a little record for me. Again, I'm going to take this recording. I am going to move it over into YouTube and then cut it up and then or put it into Opus Clips, cut it up, and you'll see more shorts and more videos. My time is, what time is it? 5:58 a.m. here in El Paso. I'm trying to get this little messagey thing to put the puzzle play so I can confirm that I'm actually live to verify. but it's still ticking. It's 126. I'm trying to do here. Let's see what else. Anyway, I appreciate you coming out. If you have any questions about anything, let me know. Just put your question in the comments, and I'll make sure to get back to you. I appreciate everybody that's joined, that's come by. And again, Gavin, Stuart, Haley, Tiger, XFF, XTTT. Some of these names are, I don't know what they are. But so this is what's going to happen. In about 51 seconds or in a minute, TikTok's going to kick me out because they say they can't see me. They haven't detected activity in my live. But the clock is still ticking down there. We're at 1 hour and 27 minutes. If it cuts me off, then I'll see you Monday morning, 4:30 Mountain Standard Time, 6:30 on the East Coast, 5:30 Central Time. Over the weekend, if I'm playing around and testing some stuff, you might see me then. But if you have any questions about starting your online business, about just life in general, about if I can put these gray hairs to work for you, connect with me. Go to my website, put your email in there, and then just send me an email from inside and we can talk. All right. So it's gonna cut me off. Did it cut me off? I'm still going. It looks like I'm still going. That's great. Again, the